Well, good evening, and thank you for once again joining me on This Week at Little Hills. I'm so glad to be with you tonight. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend. It's been so beautiful, and as we spend time outside, perhaps you had that opportunity this weekend, we get to feel a certain peace as we perhaps hear the birds singing and we're out in the woods. And that made me think in contrast to everything that we've experienced over this year so far. It's been a year that doesn't feel very peaceful. And as I reflected on that contrast, it brought me back to Isaiah chapter 52 that we looked at a few weeks ago in men's Bible study. And I want us to take a moment to look at just a few words from it, starting at chapter 52, verse 7. We read this: "How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news, who publishes peace, who brings good news of happiness, who publishes salvation, who says to Zion, your God reigns. The voice of your watchmen, they lift up their voice. Together they sing for joy, for eye to eye they see the return of the Lord to Zion." When you think of that contrast I was talking about, and we think about this image of someone bringing peace, when we have those moments that provide us with peace, it's sort of like that. We go out and suddenly all the stresses fall away and we can just enjoy a moment in God's creation. Here we find these words speaking of the peace that comes through the Lord. The Apostle Paul in Romans chapter 10 reflected on this passage and said that this is what happens when we carry the gospel forth. That as we share it with others, we bring that peace. And so just as we turn perhaps to the woods or a quiet moment in a book or something else that we love to have a moment of peace, so too as we go into the world, as we are those feet that carry God's good news, we offer a world that's hurting and lost and scared his peace. If you've experienced his peace, as I reflect on this myself, this should call us all to think, why aren't we constantly seeking ways to offer that peace to others, that people who are experiencing the exact opposite of peace could know the restoration, the salvation that Jesus brings. And if you haven't, if you think my life feels completely void of peace, I've not experienced what you're describing here, Tim, then as you hear these words, know this promise is for you too, that anyone who calls on the name of Jesus, who hears the word of his peace and turns to him, experiences it. That whatever chaos we might find, whatever punctuates our lives like a plane that suddenly takes away the peace of the woods, that can't stop us from experiencing God's peace. So let us be thinking as we go into our workplaces and other opportunities to be around people this next week, how can I be those feet of good news that carry peace to people, that take people from the anxiousness of the world and remind them of a God who offers them restoration and joy? We're going to be thinking about that actually more tomorrow night as we continue our series, Who is My Neighbor, on Steadfast at 7 p.m. Last week we thought about those neighbors that are the closest to us that sometimes we struggle to love. This week we're going to be thinking about those that we work even harder to bring outside of our boxes that we talked about, those places where we exclude people so we don't have to consider them our neighbors. As we think about that, it's going to bring us right back here. How do I show God's peace to a hurting world? And so I hope that you'll join me tomorrow night at 7 p.m. as we wrestle through that text of the Good Samaritan together and think about being feet of good news. I'd also encourage you to join me at 7 p.m. on Thursday for our continued men's Bible study. We're a few chapters past this verse that I just read and shared with you, and we're continuing to reflect on that salvation and that joy that God provides, and I do hope that you'll join me for that on Thursday. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful and blessed week. Remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and if there's any way I can be praying for you or the whole Little Hills team can be praying for you, don't hesitate to let us know or to let me know. We would love to be doing so this week. Have a great week.